Hey, and welcome to Star Wars 101. Today, I will be reading you an excerpt from the book Star Wars Jedi vs. Sith, The Essential Guide to the Force. The part that I will be reading for you is called The Confession of Darth Tyranus. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below telling me what you think. Now let's dive in. I, Darth Tyranus, make this recording for no other reason than that it will edify future Sith Lords. It has been 12 years since my former incarnation, the Jedi Master Dooku, voluntarily renounced his commission to the Jedi Order. The years have been fruitful. After leaving the Jedi, I returned to Sereno and claimed my family title of Count, which gave me access to and control over vast fortunes. This allowed the financing of plans conceived by Master Darthsidious, plans designed to bring about chaos, dividing the Republic as well as the Jedi. My master's strategy involved many protracted schedules and labyrinthine details, but I shall summarize my most significant accomplishments. As Darth Tyranus, I took measures to secure what would become an eventual army for the Republic. And as Dooku, I founded and organized the Confederacy of Independent Systems to fight this same army. At present, war rages across the galaxy, and the Jedi do not realize they have been manipulated. In the end, the Jedi will be remembered, if at all, as nothing more than an embarrassing footnote in history, and the Sith will rule, at last bringing structure to the galaxy. Although the Jedi do currently suspect that I, or more precisely Count Dooku, have allied myself with the dark side, it is with some satisfaction that I can claim they remain ignorant of my alliance to the Sith. No, I am not surprised that they are so slow to connect the dots. My satisfaction lies in the knowledge that the longer they remain ignorant, the stronger my master and I grow. According to the Jedi archives, at the time I abandoned the Order, I was only the 20th Jedi Master to do so. It still amuses me to recall the Jedi Council's response when I notified them of my decision to leave. I had already prepared a recorded statement, but they insisted that I come before them. I acquiesced, and Macewindu greeted me with a single word. Why? Not feeling in any way compelled to reiterate the vague explanations I had already offered in my prepared statement, I looked at Windu quizzically. Not more than 3 seconds of silence passed when Yoda took it upon himself to answer on my behalf. He said, "Because time it is for him to go." And indeed it was. But why was the time then, and not years earlier? Why not while I was a youth at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, when I first became aware of the Sith? Why not when I first realized that the Senate was corrupt beyond salvation, and that the Jedi were nothing more than servants to that corruption? To answer this, I must first tell you something of the Jedi that I was. Like most Jedi, I was brought to the Jedi Temple at a very early age. I spent years training with Yoda. Although Jedi younglings were not permitted to have contact with their biological families, we were allowed to know of our lineage. By the time I learned of my heritage on Sereno, I was already so committed to learning the ways of the Force and becoming a Jedi that I had no interest in whether my relations had any love for me. I could not have cared less if their vaults contained any reserves in my name, which might provide for me in the unlikely event that I failed to become a Jedi Knight. A true Jedi, I believed, did not think in terms of power. At the age of 13, Jedi Master Thame Cerulean chose me as his Padawan apprentice. Cerulean was a member of the Jedi Council and had an avid interest in history, which included the study of ancient Sith holocrons. Cerulean never gave me any indication that his interest in the Sith was anything but scholarly. I believe he may have been more intrigued by the provenance and mechanics of the devices than he was ever curious about their contents. But in choosing me as his apprentice, Cerulean aroused the envy of one of my contemporaries, a Jedi learner named Lorian Nod. Nod stole a Sith holocron from the Jedi archives and blamed it on me. I had considered Nod a friend, but when the Council questioned me about the allegations, I was compelled by my own sense of honor as a Jedi to tell the truth, and so Nod was expelled from the Order. I found it interesting that the Council stressed that Nod was expelled not for stealing the Sith holocron, but for lying and implicating me. Although I did not contemplate the Council's reasoning much at the time, I am certain I came away from the experience with the impression that Jedi Masters were more concerned with loyalty and honesty than with the temporary loss of a Sith holocron. I also learned that friendship was a bond that had its limits, and I made my first enemy. What became of Lorian Nod, you wonder? Not much, really. He spent some years in and out of prisons, but eventually became something of a leader on Junction 5, his homeworld. I met with him just last year when I invited the Junction system to join the Confederacy. Nod declined. He's dead now. I will not inundate you with too much minutiae of my years with the Jedi Order, but eventually I became a Jedi Knight. I was in my early 20s when I took on my first Padawan learner, Qui-gonjinn, a rebellious spirit with a deep connection to the living Force. Eventually, I became a Jedi Master. Let it be said that I was a good Jedi. I never shirked from duty, nor was I tempted by the dark side. Was I occasionally outspoken? Yes. And did I prefer some semblance of independence that allowed me to operate beyond the confines of the Jedi Temple? Yes. There was a minor commotion when I turned down an invitation to the Jedi Council, but the Council finally conceded that I better served the Force as a proactive peacekeeper. After all, my proficiency with the lightsaber made me most useful in the field. And so it was as a Jedi Master, some 24 years ago, that I led my Padawan Komari Vosa in a Jedi task force to Galidraan, a snow-covered planet in the Outer Rim. We had been summoned by Galidraan's governor, who claimed that Mandalorians were committing atrocities against his people. Thanks to Master Thame Cerulean, I had some knowledge of the history of the Mandalorians, a nomadic group of mercenary warriors with origins that date back many thousand of years. I was also aware that there had been decades of infighting between two Mandalorian factions, but they operated primarily on lawless worlds outside Republic space, rarely drawing attention to themselves as they almost never left any evidence of their handiwork. By all accounts, they were the epitome of professional soldiers. Because Galidraan was a Republic world and the Mandalorians' alleged actions were as brazen as they were barbaric, I allowed two possibilities. Either the butchers on Galidraan were imposters, or something had caused the Mandalorians, whichever faction they were, to change their ways. Tragically, I did not allow for a third possibility. Galidraan's governor had lied, and the Jedi Council had believed him. 5 consular-class cruisers delivered our task force to Galidraan. Komari Vosa and I traveled on the Acceptance. Our entire task force totaled 20 Jedi, all hastily withdrawn from various respective assignments for this emergency. The Jedi Council had selected us not because of our combat experience, but because of our proximity to Galidraan and how fast we could get there. I was the senior Jedi Master, and when I realized that most of my comrades' awareness of the Mandalorians was, shall we say, limited, I was beyond chagrined. Yes, the situation was urgent. Innocent people really were being slaughtered on Galidraan. Against any other small army, 20 Jedi would have been more than enough. But based on what I knew of the Mandalorians, I did not hesitate to request reinforcements from the Jedi Council. In hindsight, I should have insisted, but reinforcements could only travel so fast through hyperspace, and, as I said, innocents were dying. We located the Mandalorians in a small valley and had the high ground when we surrounded them. I wasn't surprised when they refused to surrender. Galidraan was a bloodbath. When the conflict ended, 11 Jedi and all but one of the Mandalorians lay dead in the snow. Komari Vosa was still standing, having slain 20 Mandalorians single-handedly. The surviving Mandalorian, I soon learned, was named Jango Fett. He'd killed 3 Jedi with his bare hands. As a Jedi, I could neither hate nor fear Fett, but I did feel something for him that surprised me. I felt respect. Had Fett and I been the only survivors of that battle, I would have lowered my lightsaber and bid him safe journey. He was the last of his kind, and I'd never known another being who so thoroughly deserved to go wherever he pleased. But other Jedi had survived, and I doubted that we were unanimous in our regard for Fett. In the end, it was the Council who decided his fate, for via transmission they ordered me to turn him over to Galidraan's governor. And like a gutless animal, I obeyed. The governor remained in power, and Fett was sold into slavery. Although Jedi lives had been lost, it was quickly concluded that we had accomplished our mission, and there was no subsequent investigation. Eventually, I learned the entire fiasco had been a setup. The civilians had been killed not by Fett's faction, the true Mandalorians, but by the Mandalorian Death Watch. Hoping to crush the true Mandalorians, Death Watch's leader had collaborated with Galidraan's governor to lure Fett's faction with a false assignment, then summoned the Jedi for help. Even though I knew that the Senate was corrupt, the Council was fallible, and Jedi training methods were far from perfect, I remained with the Jedi Order for 12 years after Galidraan. Why? Because I still believed that I could accomplish some good as a Jedi. I thought I could bring about some positive changes, right certain wrongs, and do better than maintain the status quo. In short, I was an utter fool. Even worse, and I confess this with some degree of shame, I could not imagine a life beyond the Order. I was weak. But then I met Darth Sidious. He showed me the way to the dark side, and he made me strong. And that ends the Confession of Darth Tyranus, from the book Star Wars, Jedi vs. Sith, The Essential Guide to the Force. Well, I hope you enjoyed these thoughts from Darth Tyranus, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below telling me what you think of them. I'm sure I'll be making some more videos like this with similar content, being as Count Dooku has some more recordings inside this book that are very interesting. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next video, and have a great day.